They're not looking for private capital. So that's that tricky part. And there's a lot of smaller companies out there, but really knowing what their track record is and how they deal with those difficult things. I'm seeing so many people from the real estate world step into oil and gas, and I am getting calls and emails weekly like, hey, I'm looking at doing this deal. Can you help me sit down and take a look at it? Because all of these syndicators are wanting to get into that space.
So what have you found the best ways to defer or mitigate taxes as it pertains to oil and gas investments? And how are those oil and gas investments performed on average the past 5 years?
Yeah, nope, that's such a great question. And oil and gas is really tricky. So if you want to offset any kind of income, you need a working interest. The tricky part of this is the people that are offering working interests like ConocoPhillips and these bigger companies, they're not looking for private capital. And so, but that's if you're going to drill, that's who you want to drill with. If they come across issues like breaking a drill bit or hit problems with, the types of ground they're hitting, caliche and things like that, they have processes and kind of that Harvard level of equipment and geologists and everything to navigate it and break through it and get through quickly and not have downtime or pretty minimal downtime. But like I said, they're not looking for private capital. So that's that tricky part. And there's a lot of smaller companies out there, but really knowing what their track record is and how they deal with those difficult things. I'm seeing so many people from the real estate world step into oil and gas, and I am getting calls and emails weekly like, hey, I'm looking at doing this deal. Can you help me sit down and take a look at it? Because all of these syndicators are wanting to get into that space, but they're not even sure how to vet it. And I've seen a lot of things come across my desk here recently that are not good deals that people need to stay away from, and it's very unfortunate. And so we have found a way to kind of back end our way into these deals with these bigger oil and gas companies. So we only drill with ConocoPhillips and Continental and Anschutz. We just did a deal with Anschutz in November that we closed out. And the great thing about that, we paid a lot more for the lease when we acquired it, but the wells were already drilled. So we were sidestepping some of the, downtime and delays and things that you can go with that. But, everything came online actually before we even closed. So our production is where we expected it to be. And I'm excited because my investors are going to end up with a third of their investment back on this first check. We got division orders about 3 weeks ago. So I guess the trade-off on that is because we paid so much more for the lease costs, we lowered a little bit of the depreciation you're going to get on the front end. But like I said, we eliminated a lot of the risk through it. And that's a really good give and take, I think, in my mind. So, and that depreciation, one thing I would like to point out, if you're vetting an oil and gas deal, that depreciation comes from the drilling costs, the stuff that offsets your W-2 income and your capital gains. So whatever cost they're going to spend on actually drilling those wells is where that's going to come from. Like we did a $5 million raise, $4 million of that went to drilling costs, which means we were able to offer 80% in depreciation. So I don't think a lot of people understand where that depreciation comes from because I've seen those costs not work out in offerings out there. So take a look at what they're putting into the drilling costs. The other really cool thing about it is any income that's comes from the production of those wells gets an automatic depletion allowance. So you're only going to pay taxes on 85% of that income for the life of that production, which is really awesome. So always take a look at track record. If somebody hasn't been doing this for a long time, and if they don't have deep pockets, I don't know that I would get involved. I would just be very, very careful. I'm seeing a lot of smaller companies that are out doing some stuff that looks really cool. The problem is they don't have the deep pockets. So if they hit a problem or they hit an issue, they're coming back to the investors to come up with the money to fix that stuff. So it's tricky. There's a lot of great opportunity out there. You just have to be very careful.